negotiation of our airspace sovereignty because Canadian-based airlines are not financially able to serve all communities due to poor Liberal policies, U.S.-based airlines operating point-to-point domestically, and other foreign carriers facilitating travel for Canadians abroad. Does the Liberal Party really want to have the legacy of leading to the demise of our aviation industry with proud, innovative roots?
So I think we'll leave that question hanging there until we get back to the honourable member for Calgary-Midnapore after a question period later this day. We'll now go to statements by members. First off, the honourable member for Davenport.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to pay tribute to the amazing seniors who are living independently in my riding of Davenport. In spite of the lockdown, Davenport seniors are doing all they can to stay safe and active, with many taking part in vital programs on Zoom, FaceTime, and other online platforms. I want to thank the many seniors' homes and local organizations who are instrumental in keeping our seniors safe, especially those that are living alone, including Terra Nova, LA for Active Living, New Horizons for Seniors, Harmonia Hispanic Seniors Group, Casa de Azores, Casa del Deju, Abrigo Center, West Neighborhood House, and Davenport Perth Community Center, and so many others. I'm also proud that our Liberal government has given seniors $2.5 billion in top-up payments, launched over 2,000 community support projects, allocated $500 million to partners like the United Way food banks and charities to help seniors and others get essential services and supplies. We will continue to support our seniors and have their back for as long as they need us. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Charleswood, St. James, Assiniboia, Headingley.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to congratulate a true community hero, Doug Mackey, for being awarded the Manitoba Lieutenant Governor's Make a Difference Community Award. In 2011, Doug founded Men Sheds Canada here in Winnipeg. He recognized that many in our community were suffering from isolation, loneliness, and depression. In a shed, men get together for activities like woodworking projects, cooking, playing cards, and so much more. Doug expanded across the country and now has 38 locations with over 1,000 members. I visited our local Woodhaven shed with Doug to see firsthand the movement he has created. These collaborative and communal spaces provide a safe place to come together, stay productive, and contribute to the community, all while improving social, physical, and mental health of seniors, or what Doug calls health by stealth. Doug truly embodies the spirit of volunteerism, and I want to offer him my heartfelt congratulations on this very well-deserved award.
The honourable member for Mississauga East, Cooksville.
Mr. Speaker, this year is the 25th year of Black History Month in Canada. It's a time to celebrate the immense contributions, along with the recognition of the resilience and strength of Black Canadians around the country. Although we may celebrate differently this year, we can still connect virtually to honor the incredible achievements of Black Canadians that have done so much to make Canada the culturally diverse, compassionate, and prosperous nation it is today. I encourage everyone to keep an eye out for virtual events related to Black History Month in my riding of Mississauga East Cooksville and in your communities. Diversity is one of Canada's greatest strengths, and multicultural Canada benefits all Canadians. Canada's commitment to diversity and inclusion is an essential, powerful, and ambitious approach to making Canada and the world a better and safer place. We are a nation created by people from all walks of life. As Canadians, we are committed to playing a positive role in the world. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Laurentian-Labelle. Mr. Speaker, it is Black History Month, and this year is the 30th anniversary in Quebec. It's an opportunity to highlight the often little-known contribution of all the Black communities in Quebec to our shared history. Obviously, during the pandemic, celebrations will be virtual, which doesn't mean that the programming will be any less rich in terms of concerts, conferences, discussion panels, and more. I invite all Quebecers to join virtually these events that are presented by the Roundtable and offered throughout the month. We cannot forget the history of the Black communities in Quebec, which is being written before our very eyes. This past year has been marked by the Black Lives Matter movement, and it will no doubt continue to shape our future. We are seeing an unprecedented speaking out. Let us take advantage of Black History Month to listen. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Hochelaga. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As we MPs return to work, it's also National Suicide Prevention Week. I would mention the students, the post-secondary students in my riding and across Quebec who are once again going back to school virtually. For months, I've seen the impact of this pandemic on my children, Kayla and Yanko, but also on young people like Christian, Eric, Nadine, Nicolas, and others. I have witnessed psychological distress, suicide attempts, and anxiety among our young people. Universities and cégeps are places where young people socialize and talk. They make memories. They challenge their ideas. They fall in love. I think that everybody in the House agrees with me to say, courage. Don't be ashamed to ask for help if you need it. We have invested in mental health platforms such as Wellness Together and the youth hotline. I salute the exceptional work being done by the health institutes, and I think we all have to be strong mentally in a strong body. The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, buy local is important, particularly during times of the COVID-19 pandemic, more so than ever before. Our small business owners, artisans, and farmers need people to support them and buy their products and services. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to talk about how important it is when we talk about the people in the buy local and having contact with the individual. And they provide us with an exceptional quality of life through their work. We need to demand more Canadian products to ensure that we have a secure supply of the goods and services we consume. We have a duty to do this during difficult times and think of the future when it comes to our future supply, Mr. Speaker. The political choices made over the next few months will have a lasting impact on the Canadian economy. Together, let's make the right choices. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That might make more sense.
The Honourable Member for Kings Hants.
Mr. Speaker, today, February 2nd, Groundhog Day, is Groundhog Day, where our furry friends across North America give us their prediction on whether we will have an early spring or 6 more weeks of winter. As the folklore goes, if the groundhog does not see their shadow, we can expect to have an early spring. This morning at the Shubenacadie Wildlife Park, Nova Scotia's own Shubenacadie Sam, the first groundhog in North America to report their prognosis, emerged from her burrow. I'm happy to report that today in Nova Scotia, as we're experiencing a blizzard, Sam did not see her shadow and is predicting an early spring, which is welcome news to Nova Scotians that are looking forward to warmer weather. Since 1987, Shubenacadie Sam, the prognosticating groundhog, has had an impeccable track record of giving accurate forecasts with a higher accuracy than many other famous groundhogs, including Wyerton Willie. I want to thank the Shubenacadie Wildlife Park for the work that they do to educate Nova Scotians about our wildlife, and I hope members of this House can agree with me that Sam has an excellent track record, and we're hoping her prediction rings true in 2021.
The Honourable Member for Vimy. Mr. Speaker, I'm honoured to speak today to highlight the incredible work of this government, which has allowed the purchase and delivery of more than 1 million doses of the vaccines to the provinces, and millions of others are on their way. We remain on track to reach our objectives. I would also like to pay tribute to businesses in my riding of Vimy, which have contributed to the development of a vaccine, Biodextrous, Nexelis, and Glycovax, in partnership with the Armand Frappier Centre. Thank you for your work and your service to Canadians. We are lucky to have such a strong biotechnological community in Laval. Mr. Speaker, Canadians can be proud of the achievements of this government in fighting the pandemic and can rest assured that they are in good hands. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Bruce Grey, Owen Sound.
Mr. Speaker, I'm rising today to speak on 2 issues. First off, to share the prediction of this country's greatest groundhog, Wyerton Willie. It's official, we will have an early spring. Next, on a more serious message, but one of hope and inspiration despite the tragedy associated with it. Last week, Grace Haynes of North Vancouver, a 17-year-old honor roll high school student dedicated to fitness, was taking a study break by going for a run near her home when she was struck in a hit-and-run accident that has left her critically injured. I have the honor of knowing Grace's parents, Chris and Andrea, from our time together at the Royal Military College. But in the face of this tragic accident, they and their brother Jack are demonstrating bravery and compassionate that is an example for all Canadians. As Chris has stated publicly, instead of lashing out in anger at the driver, he is calling for all of us to look inwards at our own driving behavior. More importantly, in Chris's own words, anger won't heal Grace, love will. Mr. Speaker, considering the challenges all Canadians have faced this past year, we should all follow this advice. Grace, I'm sending my love to you and your family.
The honourable member for Fleetwood Port Kells.
Right there.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sure every one of us here can share stories about the generosity of the folks at home as we've made our way through this dark COVID-19.
Going to interrupt the honourable member. I believe his camera is either facing the wrong direction or he's got something in front of it. There we go. Perfect.
Try that. Oh,
we'll
hello.
let you start right from the beginning again. We'll restart the clock.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I said, everybody here can share stories about the generosity of the folks at home as we've made our way through some very, very difficult times. And I'm glad to offer examples of just those kinds of people in Fleetwood Port Kells. Flavio Marquez and his amazing Christmas light show, and his wonderful Fraser Heights neighbors who donated 1,427 pounds of food and nearly $1,800 in cash to the Surrey Food Bank. People like Narinder Singh at that big Gurdwara at 152 and 68th, who turbocharged their Langar Hall and delivered thousands of meals to seniors and people having tough times. The Muslim Food Bank, helping thousands more. Our Filipino community in Narima de la Cruz, Michelle Liu for our Chinese community, Sergeant Mike Spencer of our Surrey RCMP, Brian Woodster from our faith community, and so many others. Our constituency office has honored as Fleetwood Port Kells hidden heroes. The worst of times can bring out the best in so many. And to all who've done their best, thank you.
Member for Steveston, Richmond East.
Mr. Speaker, this February we respect Black Canadians by recognizing and participating in Black History Month. It is a time to show special appreciation of Black contributions to Canada histories beyond the usual lip service and virtual signaling frequent in this chamber. When we honor Black History Month this month, we learn from an intersectional understanding of separate communities across our great nation, each one demonstrating tenacity and bringing unique experiences which contribute to our cultural mosaic from coast to coast to coast. I would highlight Robert Sutherland, Canada's first Black lawyer, whose estate saved Queen's University from bankruptcy, a simple act which has now allowed countless Canadians since to receive quality post-secondary education. I would encourage all to seek out and improve our knowledge of Black history in Canada. On behalf of Her Majesty Loyal Opposition, we wish you a respectful and enlightening Black History Month.
The honourable member for Sarnia-Lambton.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today with great concern over Michigan Governor Whitmer's attempt to shut down Enbridge Line 5 in violation of the Transit Pipelines Treaty. If this important line is shut down, more than 20,000 jobs would be impacted in my riding alone. Thousands more would be in jeopardy across Ontario and Quebec's energy industries. Line 5 supplies fuel to both the Pearson and Detroit airports, as well as 30% of home heating to these regions. Refineries, downstream processors, farmers, and businesses on both sides of the border will be impacted. The alternative methods of transportation, like trucks or rail cars, are not more environmentally friendly, and there are actually not enough of them to handle the capacity. The Prime Minister needs to seek President Biden's assistance on this issue. To help avoid the shutdown of Line 5, let Governor Whitmer's office know of your opposition by sending the proposed email available on my MP website. Together, we can help keep Line 5 open and secure jobs on both sides of the border. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Skeena, Bulkley Valley.
Mr. Speaker, for nearly 50 years, communities along BC's north coast have been working together to keep oil tankers out of our coastal waters. An oil spill here would damage our coastal economy and the world-renowned ecosystems of the Great Bear Rainforest. For First Nations who have called the coast home for thousands of years, such a disaster is unthinkable. In 1972, on a motion tabled by former Skeena MP Frank Howard, this House unanimously agreed that oil tankers on BC's north coast were inimical to Canadian interests, especially those of an environmental nature. That remains as true today as it was then. Tomorrow, we will again vote on this important question. Since Bill C-229, which would repeal the Oil Tanker Moratorium Act, was first tabled, I've heard from community leaders and residents across our region. In a matter of weeks, our petition received hundreds upon hundreds of signatures. On behalf of the people of Northwest BC, I ask that this House support a vibrant, sustainable future for our coast.
L'honorable député de la
The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, I'm very proud to announce that starting in September, the University of Quebec in Montreal, or UQAM, will offer courses in Saint-Constant in my riding. Already in 2012, as a member of the Quebec National Assembly, I saw that the availability of post-secondary programs was not keeping pace with our region's rapid development. I immediately started working to provide an antenna allowing more access to college courses, a project that came to light in 2018. Back in federal politics, I promised to add a university to the CEGEP. Promise made, promise kept. The young people in Roussillon, starting with my own children, will now be able to do all of their courses at home. I would like to highlight how efficient the team at UQAM is. It's ably led by the Dean, Magda Fusaro. Also thanks to Marc Remillard, the principal of Valleyfield CEGEP, and my old friend and partner, the mayor of Saint-Constant, Jean-Claude Boyer, for whom every problem has a solution. Long life to UQAM in Roussillon. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes.
Throughout this pandemic, we've seen people, families, and small business owners left behind by this government's response. Now, Canadians are locked down and left behind because of the Liberals' failure on rapid tests and on vaccines. Instead of focusing on vaccine delivery guarantees and securing the ability for domestic production, the Liberals spent the fall filibustering across multiple committees in a grand effort to cover up the Prime Minister's role in the WE scandal. Each and every day, Canada falls further and further behind our peers who have enough doses of the vaccine, while our elderly and our most vulnerable continue to be at risk and businesses remain closed. Conservatives want this government to get vaccine rollout right. We know that Canada cannot secure jobs, secure our economy, or secure our future without vaccines. We need vaccines to end the lockdown, and we do need to end the lockdowns. Canadians can count on Canada's Conservatives to secure health care, secure our economy, and to secure our future.
The Honourable Member for Pickering, Uxbridge.
Mr. Speaker, COVID-19 has greatly impacted veterans and the resources they rely on. Legions across the country have had to close their doors, leaving many veterans isolated and without these community-led supports. Legions provide supportive spaces and valuable assistance for our veterans and their families. Our government understands the important role Legions have in our community and responded by creating the $20 million Veterans Organizations Emergency Support Fund. Through this fund, Legion Branch 170 in Uxbridge received $10,000 in support. Not only does Branch 170 honor and support veterans, but they bring together the entire community in their efforts and teach future generations of the sacrifices that veterans made for us. The work our community does with Branch 170 is incredibly special, and I'm glad our government supported this to ensure veterans' supports will continue in Uxbridge and in so many communities across Canada. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Oral questions, question orale, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, in the last 2 weeks, the Prime Minister has failed to specifically raise the issue of Line 5 with any senior American officials he's talked to. 3 calls, no action. 30,000 direct and spin-off jobs in Ontario depend on Line 5. These workers want to know, Mr. Speaker, when is the Prime Minister finally going to stand up for their jobs?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, over the past many years, this government has consistently and effectively stood up for Canadian interests across the table from the American administrations. We've demonstrated our ability to protect steel and aluminum workers, to secure supply management, to protect our cultural exemptions, to renegotiate NAFTA. We will always stand up for Canadian workers and Canadian energy, and we will continue to do engaged actively with the United States administration.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, all the jet fuel at Pearson Airport, jobs at refineries in Montreal and Lévis, 66% of the crude used in Quebec, and zero mention from the Prime Minister in 3 calls with senior U.S. officials. Yesterday, the Natural Resource Minister talked about a Team Canada approach. So when is the Prime Minister finally going to get on the field, talk about Line 5, and stand up for workers in all parts of this country?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we saw this consistently from Conservatives over the past many years, armchair quarterbacking, telling us what we had to do, what we should do, what we would do. We just went ahead and did it. We kept protecting Canadian jobs. We kept standing up for Canadian interests. We delivered on NAFTA. We're delivering on protecting Canadian interests, and we'll continue to do so on Line 5 and on every other issue facing Canada and the U.S.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Actually, Mr. Speaker, you want to know who really did it, showed some leadership? Northern Ireland. In a few hours, they were able to obtain written exemptions from the European Union with respect to vaccine export controls. Friday night, the EU had changed their rules to guarantee vaccine supply to Northern Ireland. It's Tuesday, and all we've gotten from this Prime Minister and the Trade Minister are some verbal assurances that they've raised the matter. With Canada falling further and further behind every week in vaccines, can the Prime Minister get to it and guarantee in writing our supply of vaccines from Europe?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to be able to take this opportunity to reassure Canadians that we indeed received strong assurances from the EU leadership, including Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, that Canada's deliveries of the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines would not be disrupted by these new transparency measures that they're bringing forward. We know that we are relying on vaccines from European production plants, and Europe will continue to protect Canada's supply.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Monsieur le Président, nous avons...
Mr. Speaker, we learned that Novavax will probably be able to produce vaccines here in Canada if Health Canada approves the vaccine. The Prime Minister said that the new facilities should produce vaccines by the end of the summer, but the Innovation Minister said by the end of the year. Can the Prime Minister tell Canadians who's telling the truth? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. I was very pleased to be able to visit the facilities last September to announce the federal investments in vaccine production here in Canada. As I said, the construction of that factory should be completed during the summer, and then there should be approval and production of vaccines by the end of the year. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Mr. Speaker, the investments in a partnership with China, there were investments made, and there was the possibility of a new vaccine being produced in Canada was slow but positive. Canadians are tired of waiting for vaccines because we need the vaccine before we can have an economic recovery. The Liberal government should have a clear and specific plan on vaccine delivery. Why is the Liberal government still behind other countries? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Once again, Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives are completely out in left field and they're just scaremongering. We have made sure by negotiating a lot of contracts with different companies to have more doses per person than any other country. and we will get millions of doses, 6 million by the end of March, as expected, and 20 million by summertime. And everyone should be vaccinated by the end of September this year because that's the commitment we made. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. All of the territories and provinces, including Quebec, of course, have called for an increase in the federal contributions up to 35% of what it takes to take care of our seniors and people who are sick. The Liberals said no, and what's more, they've imposed Canadian standards. The Conservatives said, let's have a meeting within 100 days of the next election, and obviously the NDP acted like a branch plant of the Liberals. Mr. Speaker, is there no party in Canada that's willing to accept a unanimous request from the territories, provinces, and Quebec? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, as I have said a number of times in the House, and my colleague refuses to hear what I said, yes, we will increase health transfers. And as a matter of fact, we've shown a willingness to do that by increasing investments in an unprecedented fashion. Investments in seniors, in students, in Canadians, in workers. We recognize that there's more to be done in this pandemic, and we will continue to do more. Yes, in the short term, in the immediate, but yes, in the long term as well. And I look forward to those discussions in due course once we get through this crisis. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, what is this all about? National standards. The federal government does not administer any hospitals, any doctors, any nurses. That is not a matter of federal jurisdiction in any sense of the term. Why is it better to have a Canadian standard than a Quebec standard? What can a Canadian do that a Quebecer can't? What is intrinsically superior about being Canadian than a Quebecer? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Perhaps I could point one thing out. Most Canadians and most Quebecers, with the exception of the leader of the Bloc Québécois, know full well that the Canadian Armed Forces had doctors sent in to long-term care facilities in Quebec, and Canadian soldiers worked alongside Quebec doctors, and they helped a lot of seniors. So to say that the federal government has no doctors is completely wrong. It's just a political argument, the lowest form of political argument. We will be there to work with all provinces to protect seniors. The Honourable Member for Burnaby South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A recent report indicates that 65% of Greater Toronto Area workers are essential. In fact, Dr. Nahid Dasani indicates that these workers who get COVID-19 are, quote, working in close proximity and with inadequate access to paid sick leave. This is very clear. Paid sick leave will help us stop the spread of COVID-19 and will ensure that we save lives. Now, the Prime Minister says the job is done, that it's already good enough, but the existing program has problems. So will the Prime Minister commit to fixing paid sick leave so it covers all workers who need it?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we brought in paid sick leave for Canadians who aren't covered by their jobs because we know that during this pandemic, people need to be able to make the choice to stay home if they start exhibiting symptoms and know that they can still put food on the table for their families. That's why we moved forward with federal sick leave, but why we're also happy to see many provinces step up to improve the system and to adjust it so it's right for their provinces. We will continue to work hand in hand with the provinces on delivering for Canadians right across the country, because protecting our most vulnerable workers is part of the way not just to keep us safe, but make sure we recover well.
The Honourable Member for Burnaby South.
Merci.
Thank you. I had a meeting with Premier Legault, and he shared a message as President of the Council of the Confederation, and all premiers all across the country would like to see an increase in health transfers. It's more important than ever during a pandemic to have more investment in healthcare. So my question is simple. Will the Prime Minister boost health transfers, yes or no? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Yes. That's the commitment we've made to all premiers. I know we'll have to increase transfers, and we will continue to increase them as we have done every year. But during the pandemic, it's also the time to provide immediate assistance, and that is why we sent tens of billions of dollars to the provinces to help their healthcare systems get through this pandemic. In the long term, we're very open to holding this discussion, and I have said, yes, we will increase health transfers. When it comes to the details, I look forward to those conversations, but I have said that we will be there to support Canadians. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, as we know, the government was slow responding to the pandemic at the border. They didn't shut it down fast enough. And then not enough direction was given for screening travelers. So Quebecers were astounded yesterday to hear the president of the Treasury Board saying on LCN that the Quebec Provincial Police had done a poor job of enforcing the quarantine. When will the government show some leadership and admit its mistakes on the border issue? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member for the question, but let us be very clear. There was no delay, and we actually took very timely action in not only stopping all non-essential flights into Canada, but also closing the largest undefended border between ourselves and the United States. We've also been working very closely with the provinces and territories, most of whom, the police of jurisdiction, have been very effective in their enforcement of the quarantine orders. We've been working with the province of Quebec. I'm very pleased to advise that they now say that the Sûreté de Québec is prepared to take over their responsibility for enforcing the Quarantine Act. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, it's hard to believe that the government's trying to blame the provinces for its own incompetence. Is it the province's fault the border wasn't shut down fast enough? Is it the province's fault the Prime Minister is unable to secure vaccine supply? Mr. Speaker, the minister's accusations, the member for Quebec City, show a flagrant lack of leadership. His government has to take responsibility. When will he apologize to the SQ and Quebec? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, my colleagues' accusations are baseless. He knows full well that in the past we had the most strictest border controls, and we've strengthened them, we've beefed them up even further. People coming to Canada have to take a pre-arrival test. They have to pay $2,000 to stay in a hotel. They're going to have to take another test on arrival. They're going to have to isolate for 3 days in a specified area. Mr. Speaker, these are some of the strictest measures in the world, and it would be nice if my colleague at least had the decency to recognize that.
The Honourable Member for Kelowna Lake Country.
The European Union's export controls on COVID vaccines are adding to uncertainty, Mr. Speaker. The Trade Minister says she has verbal assurances from her EU counterpart, but has no written agreement confirming we are exempt. A trade expert told the Toronto Sun this means, quote, the EU can say this doesn't apply to Canada until they decide it does. Is the minister working to get a written exemption, just as other countries have, for our millions of doses of COVID-19 vaccines that would be coming from Europe?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our government and I have been in contact with our counterparts at the European Union as well as with the member states on this very important issue. Over the past week, I've reiterated to my counterparts that our expectation is that their mechanism will not affect vaccine shipments to Canada. Our next vaccine shipments remain on track for delivery. We're going to continue to work with the EU and our international partners to make sure that, as we have throughout this pandemic, to ensure that critical health and medical supply chains remain open and
and resilient. We share the urgency of Canadians to ensure that vaccines get to Canada, and we're operating every day with this urgency. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Kelowna Lake Country.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the fact of the matter is that over 100 countries are exempt from these measures, and we are not. The government has no written assurances that the EU's exports controls won't affect Canada. Whether a week from now or a month from now, we simply do not know if the EU can implement these measures on Canada's vaccine contracts. Verbal assurances are simply not enough. Why is the minister not pushing to get Canada on this exemption list?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the exemption list largely includes developing countries and states from the European single market. Many of our longstanding international partners, including New Zealand or Japan, were also not included on this list. But let me be clear. We have been repeatedly assured that the EU's measures will not affect our vaccine shipments. In my discussions with my counterparts, in the Prime Minister's conversation with President von der Leyen, our government is going to continue to work closely with the EU and with the member states to ensure that Canada's access to vaccines are not disrupted.
Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Over a year after COVID-19 started to spread, the world has learned a lot about how to fight it. But Canadians are still being asked to sacrifice with no end in sight. Canadians need vaccines, deployed rapid tests, and information to secure our future and rebuild our economy. By now, the Prime Minister should be telling Canadians what's being done to eventually safely lift restrictions, not just putting new ones in place. How many million Canadians need to be vaccinated before restrictions are lifted?
The Honourable Minister.
Speaker, every step of the way, we've been there for provinces and territories as we have fought COVID-19 together, whether it's through provision of billions of dollars to ensure that provinces and territories have the capacity to test, to contact trace, to safely isolate, whether it's to provide personal protective equipment, to purchase testing or vaccinations. That's what we have been doing, Mr. Speaker, supporting provinces and territories every step of the way. Vaccines are an important tool in seeing the end of this pandemic, and I thank all Canadians for trying so hard together to protect each other.
I just want to point out, I want to remind the honourable members, je m'excuse, vous avez un appel au règlement, c'est par rapport à...
Do you have a point of order?
I want to remind all the members who are joining us virtually today, the arm on their headset, sometimes it's too close to your mouth, sometimes it's too far. Rule of thumb is 1.5 centimeters away from where your mouth comes to an end right here. So that's probably a good one, just below or just above, and that works out well for those who aren't quite in the metric yet, about 1/2 inch. The Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
It's actually interesting you said that, Mr. Speaker, because I'd love to be having this debate in the House. But the minister couldn't answer my question. And it's a question that relates to when life gets back to normal. And, you know, limiting Canadians' charter rights, limiting their movements, preventing them from entering their own homes and having to go to quarantine facilities are extreme measures that should have clear end criteria. They must be temporary. And a year into COVID, the Liberals must start telling Canadians how and when they will be safely lifted. So no word salad. How many million Canadians need to be vaccinated before restrictions are lifted?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, every step of the way as the science and research has evolved around COVID-19, Canada has been guided in our response by that science and evidence. And in fact, quarantines are an important measure in protecting Canadians from the importation of the virus and, of course, now the importation of variants. Every step of the way, Mr. Speaker, we have followed research and evidence. We'll continue to do that, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank all Canadians for the sacrifices they're making to keep each other safe.
The Honourable Member for Beauport-Limoilou. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's good news in the long run that Novavax vaccine will be produced in Montreal, but only in the long term, because these vaccines will arrive too late to help us get through the second wave. It will be useful in the event of a future pandemic, but not for the 20 million people the government has promised to vaccinate by June. What is the government doing today to ensure the necessary doses are available? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, since the early days, our government's goal has been to ensure access to vaccines and to invest in vaccines and the most promising treatments, and third, to invest strategically to rebuild Canada's capacity to manufacture vaccines. That's precisely what we've done, and we knew from the beginning that we had to base this on the best scientific advice. We are there for Canadians with biomanufacturing. It's on the way. The Honourable Member for Beauport-Limoilou. Mr. Speaker, 3 objectives, but are we reaching them? I don't think so. Producing Novavax vaccine in Montreal will help us only in the future. We need vaccines today. We've been in a vaccine race for 11 months, and it's only today that the government is announcing an agreement to produce a vaccine domestically, but not before the summer of 2022. The government should have negotiated this 11 months ago so we could start producing vaccines the second Health Canada approved them. 11 months, Mr. Speaker, that's a long time. Why did it take so long? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I remember listening to the Bloc a couple of months ago saying they'll never be able to vaccinate anyone. Well, we are vaccinating people. And now they're trying to scare people by saying that the global demand is greater than the global supply. But we have so many contracts with so many different countries, and the goals are the same, and we're going to reach them. 6 million by the end of March, half of Quebecers by the end of June, and all Canadians by the end of September. Those are our goals, and we're going to meet them.
Agreement, Napor.
Mr. Speaker, this government asked Canadian carriers to suspend flights to both Mexico and the Caribbean, yet American carriers are still carrying Canadians to these sun destinations. Mr. Speaker, the airline sector in Canada has already been put through the ringer. So why is the PM putting American jobs first when he should be standing up for Canadian airline workers?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our domestic airlines carry the vast majority of Canadians traveling to sun destinations on vacation. However, we are aware that some foreign carriers also operate between Canada and sun destinations. The government is working with foreign airlines on this issue. But for example, Aeromexico already announced that they are suspecting flights between Canada and Mexico. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Calgary-Midnapore.
Well, Mr. Speaker, while American carriers continue to carry Canadians to sun destinations, Canadian carriers are parked right here at home. Mr. Speaker, the Canadian aviation sector has already lost significant market share as a result of this government's incompetence and inaction, while foreign carriers have received billions of dollars in sector-specific aid. So when will this Prime Minister put Canadian jobs first and deliver a plan for the airline sector?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member knows that a U.S. carrier cannot transport Canadians to a sun destination without first stopping in the U.S. And she probably also knows that the Biden administration has already implemented new measures on all travelers coming to the U.S. And by the way, there are additional measures that we are working to coordinate with the U.S. So I ask my honourable colleague to join me in calling on all Canadians to suspend or postpone non-essential travel. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Richmond-Arthabaska.
Vous êtes en sourdine, apparemment.
You're on mute, apparently.
On recommence le relais. Voilà.
Start over. Mr. Speaker, the Liberal government has announced an end to southbound flights by Canadian carriers. Meanwhile, U.S. airlines are still offering Canadians service to all-inclusive sun destinations. This is completely ridiculous. When will this government take responsibility and manage the border properly? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I stated earlier, No U.S. carrier can carry a Canadian to a sun destination direct without stopping in the U.S. I also stated earlier that the Biden administration has implemented new measures on all travelers. So I ask my colleagues to join me in calling on all Canadians to postpone non-essential travels. And I want to take a moment to thank the airlines for voluntarily agreeing to help prevent the spread of COVID, and that our government is currently working on a support package to help airline carriers and their workers. Thank you.
The honourable member for Richmond Arthabaska. For the minister, Mr. Speaker, here's what the CEO of the Air Transport Association of Canada said. Of course we're frustrated by this absurd situation. The fact that the government couldn't find a way to prevent American competitors here from doing what it won't allow Canadian carriers to do is unbelievable. Mr. Speaker, our Prime Minister is always in reaction mode, unable to make good decisions quickly. Why isn't he protecting our border and Canadian jobs? What's he waiting for? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, jobs in the airline sector are incredibly important for our country's safety and economy. We are currently working with the airline sector on providing a support package for them. What I would like to ask my honourable colleague is to please join me in understanding first the importance of these travel measures, and second, in encouraging all Canadians to avoid non-essential travel. And let's recognize and acknowledge the sacrifice of the workers of the airline sector. We will stand by them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for St. John East.
Mr. Speaker, millions of Canadians don't have access to the dental care they need. More than 1/3 have no dental coverage at all, and the numbers have increased because of the pandemic. Young people, seniors, precarious workers, families with a low income endure pain and suffer avoidable health and social consequences because they can't afford dental care. Last February, the Liberals voted against a dental plan. Will they change their minds and support my private member's motion to implement a federal dental program now for all uninsured Canadians with family income less than $90,000?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I thank the member opposite for advocating for low-income families and for access to dental care. As I've said in this House, this seems like a worthy area to investigate, and I certainly would be more than happy to review any recommendations that might come from the Health Committee or other committees that study the issue.
The honourable member for London Fanshawe.
Mr. Speaker, Robert Major is a 62-year-old mechanic in my riding who was unable to work because of health issues during the pandemic. Like thousands of Canadians, Robert was asked by the CRA to repay the CERB money he received in good faith. Robert has worked for over 40 years, paid his taxes, paid into EI, and yet he can't get the help he needs. Robert and his wife cannot access other supports, and they cannot afford to pay the clawback. Why is it when Robert needed help the most and Liberals promised to have his back, he got a knife instead?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When the pandemic hit, we quickly introduced the CERB, helping 9 million Canadians put food on the table and keep a roof over their head. We know this continues to be a difficult time for many, and we will continue to be there. No one is required to make repayments at this time, and we're actively looking at options to support Canadians who may in fact be determined ineligible. As the Prime Minister has said, we're going to work with Canadians who need to make repayments in a way that is flexible and understanding of their unique circumstances. There won't be penalties or interest for anyone who made good faith mistakes.
The honourable member for Surrey Newton.
Mr. Speaker, the new highly affected sectors credit availability program was introduced yesterday. The program is being directed towards companies who have already qualified for and received the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy or the Canada Emergency Rent Subsidy. My question for the Minister is on behalf of businesses throughout Canada that have not received either of the subsidies, will their applications be at a disadvantage compared to the companies that have?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the honourable member from Surrey Newton for his strong voice for small businesses. We know many small businesses continue to be hard hit by this pandemic and continue to face restrictions and are protecting the health and safety of their employees and their customers. HASCAP is another way our government is stepping up to provide this critical lifeline for Canada's hardest hit businesses. Applications, of course, are open at Canada's financial institutions, and no businesses that do not receive the wage subsidy nor the rent subsidy are not going to be affected. But I would encourage them to please apply.
The honourable member for Edmonton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, the Buy America rules announced by the Biden administration allow exceptions only under limited circumstances where there's an overwhelming security, humanitarian, or emergency need in America. Canadian businesses could be shut of U.S. government procurement. In 2010, the Conservative government dealt with Buy America requirements by signing an agreement with the Obama administration to allow Canadian companies to participate in the U.S. infrastructure projects. Why has this government done so little on a file that means so much to Canadian businesses?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, to Canadian businesses and workers, I want you to know that we are actively engaging with our American partners at all levels, and we will always stand up for the interests of Canadians. The President raised in his call with President Biden that workers in both our countries benefit from the integrated resilient supply chains. The Prime Minister also spoke to Vice President Harris this week about strengthening our trade relationship and avoiding unintended consequences of the Buy American policies for the benefit of people in both countries. We're always going to take a Team Canada approach, working with Canadian businesses and exporters, manufacturers and industries, just as we have done in the last 5 years. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Edmonton Centre.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Canadian Chamber of Commerce says that the new Buy American rules will make it more difficult for Canadian businesses to secure contracts in the U.S. This will put a significant chill on investment at a critical time when Canadian economy is very fragile. The government can't blame their trade problems on the previous administration in the United States anymore. What is the plan to ensure Canadian businesses can participate in U.S. government contracts?
Honourable Minister.
Monsieur le Président, nous défendrons toujours les intérêts.
Mr. Speaker, we will always defend Canadians' interests. The Prime Minister has spoken with the President and the Vice President, and he underscored that workers need to be able to benefit from our integrated supply chains. The Prime Minister and the President agreed to consult each other in order to avoid limiting trade between our two countries. Will we be working closely together in order to support a sustainable economic recovery? Thank you.
For Lakeland.
Mr. Speaker, last year gun seizures at Canada's border spiked and 80% seized by Toronto police came from the U.S. while shootings went up. Yesterday, the Prime Minister talked to the U.S. VP about gun trafficking. But last week, this exact same Prime Minister defeated a Conservative bill to crack down on illegal gun smuggling. As usual, this PM is all talk and no action. Why does he target law-abiding firearms owners and retailers, but reject solutions to criminals and gangs that terrorize Canadians?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. We're moving forward to strengthen gun control, including addressing all of the ways in which criminals gain access to guns. We've promised Canadians that we'll strengthen gun control, while the Conservatives have promised the gun lobby that they will weaken it. Mr. Speaker, it's important to listen to police chiefs like the chief in Edmonton, who advises that only 5 to 10% of the guns in his city come from across the border. The rest are obtained legally through straw purchase or they're stolen. Mr. Speaker, we're committed to doing the whole job of keeping communities safe.
The Honourable Member for Medicine Hat, Carson Warner.
Mr. Speaker, police across Canada have been very clear. Smuggled firearms, illegal firearms, and criminals are the real problem in this country, not legal gun owners. If the Liberals actually took gun crime seriously, they would have demonstrated that last week on Bill C-238. But what did they do? The Liberals voted against one of the root causes of gun violence in Canada, and that is illegal firearms smuggled into this country from the United States. They didn't even want to study the issue at committee. This government continues to fail Canadians at every turn. Why?
The Honourable Minister.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, again, I would thank the member for the question, but I would remind him that we've made a commitment to deal with all of the ways in which criminals gain access to guns, including strengthening our response at the border, but also dealing with guns that are stolen and illegally diverted into the hands of criminals. And, Mr. Speaker, let's listen to the police chiefs. The police chief in Saskatoon told us that crime guns in his city come primarily from theft. The police chief in Regina said that they're not being brought across the border, but are coming from break-and-enters in his city. And as I've already said, the chief in Edmonton has said that only 5 to 10% come across the border. Mr. Speaker, it's important for us to address all of the ways criminals get access to guns, and that's the work we're doing.
The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pandemic or not, there is one industry that can always count on the federal government, the oil industry. In the spring, the federal government eliminated the environmental assessment for 100 drilling sites off Newfoundland. Last week, it authorized 40 more in Newfoundland, and now the federal government has its eye on Quebec. An Albertan oil company wants to carry out exploratory drilling in an area of 1,500 square kilometers off the lower north shore in a marine refuge. Will the Minister of the Environment say no to this drilling? The Honourable Minister.
Ministre.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. La santé de nos...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The biodiversity of our protected marine areas is a priority for our government. That is why we have taken action to protect 5% of the oceans by 2025. And we have joined the Global Alliance for the Oceans. Our government respects the Quebec moratorium in the St. Lawrence on new oil and gas exploration in the Gulf of St. Lawrence as well. The permits in question were issued in the 90s. The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Well, the Liberals, Mr. Speaker, are acting like doormats to the oil companies. They took advantage of the pandemic to help out their friends in the oil industry while the population's attention was elsewhere. And now the minister doesn't seem to know how to answer. He seems to be saying that he might be thinking of authorizing oil drilling in the Saint Laurent region. Mr. Speaker, Quebecers don't want any of it. Our future is not in the oil industry. Let me repeat my question. Will the minister today stand up and say no to oil drilling in Quebec once and for all? The Honourable Minister. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. What my honourable colleague said is simply false. As I have said before, the permits in question were issued in the 90s by the Quebec government and are under provincial jurisdiction. They respect the Quebec. We respect the Quebec, the provincial moratorium on the exploration and drilling in the Gulf of St. Lawrence.
Mr. Speaker, NAV Canada has made the unilateral decision to close 7 of this country's air traffic control towers. Last week, it was revealed at committee that NAV Canada paid out $7 million in executive bonuses at the same time it was making the decision to close the towers. The federal government holds 3 seats on the NAV Canada board. Can the minister tell us if the federal appointees voted for or against these executive bonuses?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, my honourable colleague knows that NAV Canada operates at an arm's length from government and operates independently. NAV Canada is currently undertaking several studies to assess the level of services it needs. It is important to note that any changes in the level of service proposed by NAV Canada will be subjected to a rigorous safety assessment. Rest assured, Mr. Speaker, the safety is the main concern of mine and my department. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Member for Battleford's Lloydminster.
Mr. Speaker, this Liberal government has not given our seniors who are struggling a clear plan to help them through this pandemic. But they are raising their taxes through the carbon tax. Tripling the carbon tax will cost seniors even more for essentials like gas, groceries, and home heating. And for many seniors, their budgets are already stretched further than they can manage. Mr. Speaker, will a Prime Minister give them a break and cancel his failed carbon tax?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you for the question. Certainly, while COVID is the challenge of our lifetime at the present time, we cannot forget that climate change is an impending existential threat to humanity. Putting a price on carbon pollution is a critical plan of our part of our plan to attack climate change and to reduce emissions, but we do so in a manner that ensures affordability. And if the honourable member would look at the plan, those that actually are in federal backstop jurisdictions, the vast majority of Canadian families get more money back than they pay in the context of the carbon price. It is the most efficient way to reduce emissions. It is an important part of fighting climate change in a manner that is affordable, and certainly it is something.
The honourable member for Northumberland, Peterborough South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week at Public Accounts Committee, this government stated that the GST was not taxable to the carbon tax. That is patently false. There is GST charged to every dollar of carbon tax, federal carbon tax. If you have any doubt, Mr. Speaker, just ask the farmer. They'll tell you. Why did this government mislead Canadians about their tax on a tax?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, addressing and fighting climate change should not be a partisan issue. Now more than ever, I think we all need to work together to bring together the best ideas to fight climate change. Our plan put a price on pollution to ensure that there is certainty for businesses and for individuals going forward, to ensure that we reduce emissions, and we do so in a manner that is both efficient and affordable. We certainly hope that the party opposite will come to the conclusion that addressing climate change is actually important and bring forward a plan that's a credible plan of their own.
L'honorable député de Brome-Missisquoi.
The honourable member for Brome-Missisquoi. Mr. Speaker, since the beginning of the pandemic, our government has worked hard to protect Canadians' health and safety. From implementing a mandatory 14-day quarantine for international travelers, to the fact that passengers must now receive a negative PCR test result before taking a flight to Canada, our government has implemented measures that will address Canadians' concerns about COVID. Can the Minister of Transport tell this House about the new measures taken to better protect the health and safety of our communities?
Le ministre.
Merci à ma collègue pour sa question. Each new case of COVID-19 is one too many. That's why, since March of last year, we've enforced some of the world's strictest border measures. We recently introduced new restrictions which involve an agreement with airlines to suspend flights to and from Mexico and the Caribbean. Additionally, all travelers will soon have to book 3 nights at a public health facility and get tested upon arrival. We will continue to do whatever it takes, and for as long as it takes, to protect and support Canadians during the pandemic. Thank you, Mr.
The honourable member for Calgary, Signal Hill.
Mr. Speaker, on my desk is a picture of Rogers Stadium in Toronto. I'd show it to you, but you'd accuse me of using a prop. So I'll just tell you the picture is a stadium full of 50,000 people. Now, coincidentally, that's the same number of people that were being vaccinated every day in Canada up until about 10 days ago. Now, 10 days of no vaccinations, do the math, that's 500,000 people. I would like to ask through you, Mr. Speaker, to the Prime Minister, what modeling has the government done to determine how many Canadians' lives could be lost because of this 10-day gap in their bungling of vaccination procurement?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, every step of the way, our government has worked to protect the lives of Canadians from COVID-19 from the beginning with, as my colleague has mentioned, some of the strictest measures on the border with a mandatory 14-day quarantine, most recently strengthened. The support for provinces and territories, Mr. Speaker, $19 billion, supports for long-term care, ensuring that provinces and territories have what they need to deliver health care in their jurisdictions. And will continue, Mr. Speaker, whether it's buying tests, buying vaccines, distributing with provinces and territories the vaccines to the most vulnerable, will be there for Canadians.
The honourable member for Kamloops Thompson Caribou.
Mr. Speaker, when it comes to border closures, mask mandates, protective equipment, and vaccine procurement, this government has been a day late and a dollar short. The UK realized the necessity to make vaccines domestically months ago, and their facilities are ready to go. We are an embarrassing 38th in the world in vaccinations per capita. Our ad hoc Made in Canada solution was finally announced today. Canadians deserve better. This is the most important intervention we have to save lives. Why did the minister wait so long?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And by no means did our government wait at all. Increasing our country's biomanufacturing capacity has been part of our recovery plan since the very beginning. It's in our interest, both now and in the future, to have this capability within our borders. And that's why at the beginning of this crisis, at the beginning of the pandemic, we made immediate investments with biomanufacturing projects in Quebec City with Medicago, Vito Intervac in Saskatchewan, with the National Research Council, of course, and with AbCellera. We've moved quickly to make sure that our biomanufacturing is much, much stronger after years of disinvestment. And today's announcement with Novavax is just another bit of good news. Our government is taking a step-by-step approach with advice from our National Vaccine Task Force.
The Honourable Member for Charleswood, St. James, Assiniboia, Headingley.
Mr. Speaker, vaccines are critical to reopening the economy and securing jobs for Canadians. This government has said all Canadians will have a vaccine by September, but the numbers just don't add up. The government needs an average of 2 million doses every week to meet the September timeline, but there's an expected 1.93 million dose shortfall this week alone. Does the government have a real plan to secure these doses, or will this shortfall simply balance itself?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, when Canadians needed PPE, we procured over 2 billion items. When Canadians needed rapid tests, we procured over 40 million rapid tests. When Canadians needed vaccines, we procured the largest number of doses per capita from 7 different suppliers. Vaccines are arriving in this country, Mr. Speaker, and every Canadian who wants one will be able to get one by the end of September. We always have Canadians' backs. We will not play politics with vaccine procurements, unlike our colleagues on the other side of the House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Hamilton East, Stony Creek.
Mr. Speaker, despite the pandemic, many of our business sectors in Hamilton are performing well, contributing to wages and tax revenues, including our steel industry, which I'm proud to help represent. With the current round of pre-budget consultations now underway, can the Associate Minister of Finance tell us how the government plans to ensure vibrancy and sustainability for steel and steel-related industries as we navigate the complex issues of a post-pandemic economy?
Honourable Minister.
Monsieur le Président, ce fut un
Mr. Speaker, it was a pleasure to hold a pre-budget consultation with Hamilton stakeholders last week. With my colleague, I heard many excellent ideas on how we can make historic investments in Hamilton.
Hamiltonians of their ideas to make Canadian steel the most sustainable in the world as we strive to be net zero by 2050. I also heard that we need to create opportunities to support our youth who have been particularly hard hit during this pandemic to get the skills they need through investments in skills training. Les Hamiltoniens peuvent être confiants que notre gouvernement fera tout ce qui est en son pouvoir.
Hamiltonians can be confident that our government will do everything in its power to support them.
For Timmins James Bay.
Mr. Speaker, an abusive employer can damage one's career, one's health, and one's dignity, and some of those scars never heal. This Prime Minister failed to undertake basic due diligence in vetting Julie Payette, and he failed to lay down clear rules on her entitlements. She does not merit a pension or perks because she failed in her duties to Canada. This Prime Minister needs to send a very clear signal that our institutions will not be a safe haven for employers who abuse their workers. Will he tell Madame Payette she's simply not entitled to her entitlements?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our government has, from the very beginning, made it clear that no Canadian should work in a place that's not respectful, safe, and healthy. The Prime Minister has made that commitment to all people who work in Canada's public service, and we've taken action in legislative ways to ensure that that's also the case in other workplaces. We continue to say to all Canadians that this is a fundamental right they have to work in a safe and healthy, respectful workplace, and Rideau Hall, Mr. Speaker, is no exception.
The honourable member for Vancouver Granville.
Mr. Speaker, we all want to know when we will be vaccinated. However, vaccine nationalism has become a real concern as nation states compete to procure vaccine for their citizens. We are a part of this competition. While politically challenging, the hard truth is that until such time as all of the planet is vaccinated, none of us are safe. We are all interconnected. The virus will continue to mutate in unvaccinated populations, will become more virulent, and will inevitably come here. I know we are understandably focused on vaccinating Canadians, but what specifically are we doing to ensure successful global vaccination?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I want to assure the honourable member and all members of this House that while we have the most diverse portfolio of vaccines in the world and the most number of doses per capita of any country in the world, we are also very committed to multilateral alliances, including the Gavi Alliance of the WHO and the COVAX facility, of which we are a part. Once we have vaccines in this country to vaccinate Canadians, we will be sure to share our doses with the rest of the world. We believe that until everyone is vaccinated, no one is protected. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And that's all the time we have for question period today. C'est tout le temps que nous avons. I would like to take a few moments to revisit an issue that has been raised on both sides of the House in recent days. The use of props in the House and committees to illustrate a point or promote positions that has always been contrary to our rules and practices. With respect to member statements, the chair has shown some flexibility and and as long as the statement was not disruptive. However, speakers have not hesitated to interrupt deliberations and even votes to ask certain members to comply with this rule.
Confronted with an unprecedented situation almost a year ago, the House decided to allow members to participate in deliberations by video conference, while always respecting our traditions. The chair has, moreover, intervened on several occasions to remind members to maintain a background that is neutral in nature, respecting the chamber's tradition, and that the normal dress code remains mandatory.
We must recognize that the rules and practices that govern us remain in force, regardless of the circumstances.